Okay guys, Saturday the 9th of December and we're starting on the S&P 500. So we'll have a quick recap of this market from last week in relation to our Sunday analysis. We'll then have a look at the market for the trading week ahead and then we'll move on to the NASDAQ. Okay, so for the S&P last week, we had our sloping support and resistance lines on this chart, and what we went over was how the market had made a very strong bullish rally and potentially broken above this upper band of what has been acting as resistance. So you can see on Sunday, we started all the way up at around about 2660. We were looking for potential pullbacks and then continuation. You can see the market pulled back, it tested right at that sloping support line, and then we've had a nice strong bullish bounce come into the market. Now, in terms of support and resistance, once again, we are going to be looking at the 4-hour time frame. So from last week, what I've done is I've kept on one of the support levels, one of the other levels up above. You can see the market as we opened on Monday morning, started drifting down. It actually bounced off of this area of potential support. It then came all the way back down and it's retested at the key levels we identified last week. So around about 2622 to 2620. It was lining up with the sloping support line, which is what we were looking for. Pressed up, we tested at the resistance level we identified. You can see it come down, tests as support, breaks back down, comes back up, tests as resistance, the rejection, the rejection, the rejection, rejection, rejection. And then we start to break up above. So coming into next week now, what are we looking at? Well, the main thing is the market is still bullish. We've now had that very nice pullback and retest at the sloping trend line, which was really the high probability move on this market after we broke up above. After, we've been testing at this resistance for such a long time. When we broke up above like this, it's very high probability if we see a pullback, the bulls would step back in once again. Now, obviously, up above we have all-time highs. In fact, you could really bring this down to incorporate the large spike up from the 30th of November. So around about 2658 up into 2665. This whole section up here remains resistance. All-time highs, always worthwhile keeping your eye on for, if we start to rally up into here, it's profit taking. It's also the bears stepping back in, looking for market weakness. Now, if we break up above, it's also good to look for pullbacks and continuation. Now, if we do see that break up above, really the pullbacks into this whole section right here, if we're going to see continuation, that's really where you'd expect to see it starting to come into the market. Now, down below there, we have another strong level, which is sitting around about 2650, around 2651 actually, down into 2645. So we're actually just testing at this level at present. Coming into the close on Friday, we pressed up toward 2651, and that is where the market has closed. Now, really moving forward, these remain key down here. First of all, as long as we are sitting above that sloping support line, if we see the market pulling back to retest at any level of support which is lining up with that sloping trend line, it's worthwhile looking for the bulls stepping in and buy positions. If we start breaking back down below this level, that's when once again we start looking for potential weakness and potentially that move back down toward the sloping trend line that we had down below. And what you can also see is from the last couple of weeks, we've put in a couple of nice strong tests here, one here and one here. If we are breaking down below this level now, it's worthwhile looking for resistance and potentially a move all the way back down to 2605 down toward, it'll be the round number, yeah, the round number 2600. I'm not expecting that to happen next week. It may happen next week because we've put in such a strong break, we've put in another bullish rally. I'm not expecting to see a very, very strong move down back through this trend line and then the move down. But if we do, it's always worthwhile having a plan for it in case it happens. But certainly moving forward, if we break down below this level, resistance and the potential move back down into previous support. So key support next week, if we're starting to break above this level, again, good level to look for potential support and the move back up, at least in toward 2655, up into 2658. All-time highs become a good level once again to look for resistance. If we break up above, it's worthwhile watching for that continuation. You know, we are in December. If you've been trading for any length of time, I'm sure you've heard of the Christmas rally. Tends to happen quite a few years. You just see the market drifting higher in the second half of December. Those are the main areas, guys. At present, this is still reacting as resistance. Coming into next week, but it looks like we are starting to attempt to break up above. If we do, looking for that support and the move higher, back up toward all-time highs, which is key resistance. If we see the market falling down, 2635, 2630, next level of key support for me, lining up with that trend line. If we start to break down below there, really we want to be a little bit careful, unless we're also breaking down below that trend line. There's the potential here if we come down and we just start poking through. It's just the market testing at these levels. We want to see a nice strong break like this before we then look for the move back down toward the key levels here. If we did, key support. If we break down below, as I've mentioned, looking for that stronger move down. Okay guys, so that is everything for the S&P this week. Let's move on to the NASDAQ. Okay guys, now let's do the exact same thing for the NASDAQ. So with this market, what I've done is I've put the levels that we had last week back onto the chart. What we were looking for up at these levels was potential resistance to come into the market, and then if we started to break up above these levels, we could look for the bounce up into the next one. Now down below, at these three levels here, we were looking for potential support. And what you can see on Monday, we came all the way down into our 257 to 243 level, put in a little bit of a bounce. We tried to break down on Tuesday, then we made a very strong move higher. Wednesday again, tried to break down and failed, and then we started that move higher up into our first level of key resistance, where on Friday you can see the market sold off. So coming into next week, well really, most of our zones are looking pretty good. Certainly these three up here remain key resistance. Let's drop onto the 4-hour time frame quickly and we can have a look. So what we can see is the market coming down, trying to break through this lower level of support, failing. We then get the very strong move up from that level. We then pull back down, testing at the zone. We then get another very strong move up. You can actually see the resistance here coming in, and we then press back down, nice bullish test, and once again the market pushes up before we start to see the rejection coming in at our first level of key resistance. So for next week, let's have a quick look. So really we want to adjust the lows down here to take into account the spikes down. Really for me it's sort of sitting at 234.8, around about 235. For me, this looks like a couple of false breaks down. The proper testing is coming 1, 2, and 3. So right here, this is a key level of support moving forward. It's only if we start to see the market breaking through this level, accepting through this level, that I would then expect the bears to step in and a stronger move down to come into NASDAQ. Really back down toward at least 7215, toward the round number 7200. This whole section right here. So moving forward, that's really what we need to see for the market to take on a more bearish tone. Now what we've done is when we came down like this, we've tested once, we've tested twice. So we have made a double bottom. Now all a double bottom is a display of price action or bears attempting to force the market down twice, failing twice, being overpowered by the bulls, and then the bulls manage to, instead of failing at the previous level of resistance, they break it back up above. So it's a sign that the bulls are in control. And what it means for us is if we now see a pullback toward this 6321 to around about 6300 level, it becomes a great area to look for potential bullish continuation. Retesting at the center point right here from that double top. We've broken up into this resistance, the pullback, support for continuation. Now down below we also have that level right here. Really for this one also what I would say is it's worth, if we start to get down into this level, first of all, the market was starting to be looking a little bit more choppy. And I'd be happy to look for bullish moves back up into this zone, but then I would also be a little bit wary of potential resistance. If we start to break down below this zone, I'd then be happy to look for the potential resistance and the move down toward these lows. But then once again, this is such a key level, I'd then be starting to look for potential support coming back in once again. So this is a bit of a, I guess you would call this almost the pivot point for next week. Loss above here, I'm still happy to look for those bullish bounces. If we start to break back down, then I would really be looking for the move back down toward the previous lows. But once again, that remains key support, and it's only if we start breaking down below that level that I'd be expecting to see 7,200. Now up above, we are once again still holding at the all-time highs. Now if we see the market coming up into 1, 2 or 3 moving forward, I'm still happy to look for weakness and potential sell positions. You could maybe bring this one up a little bit, just up toward 6,395. So right now it's 6,385 to 6,395. The next one up is obviously the all-time highs, and then if we do start to break up above there, we'd be looking for the bullish continuation, a continuation of the bullish trend that we've been seeing for such a long time. And really, until we got more price action, it would only really be those trend lines that we had for potential resistance. Okay guys, that's everything for the NASDAQ moving into next week. The main points are key support remains down here. We have produced that double bottom with the breakup above, so early next week certainly. Potential retests at this zone at 7,300 to 7,320. Good to look for bullish continuation. Up above into the all-time highs remains key resistance. If we start to break up above those all-time highs, then we are once again looking for the continuation of that bullish trend. Okay guys, so as always, I hope that was helpful. I hope you all have a good trading week next week. I'm James Orr, and thank you.